Hello everybody, welcome back to Dirt Designs. Today I'm going to show you how I made a Jurassic June themed display for some T-Rex teeth that I bought off eBay. So stick around. So here we have the T-Rex tooth castings. As you can see, they're very detailed. You've even got the serrations. I mean, for what I paid, these are pretty awesome. And to have them be from Lineage molds. So that's what we're working with. And the first thing I'm going to do is, there's a little bit of the pour over from the molding process. Obviously I wanted to keep this stuff. This would be like inside the gums, but I want to keep that. But I do want to take this to the sander and sand this down. It's more prominent on this little one, but it's still, even on this big one, there's just a smidgen of the lip. So I'm going to take these to my sander. It's even got like this cool detail up here. This is a great casting. I really wish I bought more of the stuff they were selling. I thought they would keep selling it, but obviously it was some kind of not legal shenanigans they were selling these castings. But anyway, so we're going to do that, and then eventually I'm going to drill a hole in here so I can mount it to like a skewer or something to make painting a little easier. But let's go do that. So here's the teeth all sanded down. I also took the liberty to fill some of there's little air bubbles, so I filled them with some putty, and then I scraped it with the knife to make it even. Also primed these because it was a nice day, so that's gonna be our starting point. I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom so that I can mount like a stick there to paint. When I'm painting, I can have a handle to hold on to and not have to hold on to the tooth the whole time. So that's the next step. And I'm going to start it with this pin vise. I guess they're as good as anywhere. Okay, so in the last clip you saw me painting these the off-white color. I decided to go back in with a darker color. I mixed these two together. And I did that on the whole thing, and then overbrushed back over it with the white. And I'm glad I did, because it really warms it up, and then it leaves some dark areas in the cracks here. It's actually the colors you put underneath really matter, especially like for priming and whatnot, and it just made it a whole lot like a smidgen like grungy looking almost. So, and this will help when I put the wash on to go into all the crevices, and it'll make the crevices even darker. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to put a whole wash over this, let it dry, and then we're going to dry brush over this with the white again. So we're about to dry brush these. Before we do though, real quick, I decided of a display method for these. I had originally intended to put them in like one of those like car display things. You display like model cars in them, but I couldn't find one that was big enough for the height of the teeth. And then I thought about getting one custom made, but I was like, why even bother? It's so much money. So I have a stash of these, and I thought this would be an interesting way to display them. It's a cloche that I thrifted. So I thought, can't zoom out here, to have it displayed in the cloche like this. I thought that'd be really cool. I don't think I can fit both. If I could fit one, that would be fine. But I figure that would be a neat, almost like display at a museum kind of thing. So I think that's what we're going to do to display it. So now I'm just gonna dry brush the white back on, leaving the brown in the nooks and crannies. And I may have to build up a few layers. I don't want to hammer it on because I want some of the brown to come through. So I'm going to do this in successive layers until I get the result that I want. So here I got the teeth and I'm ready to airbrush them. I was having trouble deciding whether I do like a JP1 style tooth, because the tooth in JP1 didn't have as much weathering on it, but the Lost World teeth are very dirty. I'm assuming because they're wild T-Rexes instead of captive. I'm not sure. They wanted to make it look cool. So I think I'm going to strike a balance between the two. So I'm going to start out slowly and use thin glazes, and then I can always add more, but I can't take it away. So I'm going to start with thin glazes, and I have these teeth. I put a coat on them, so I could wipe anything off if I don't like it. So I guess we'll give it a whirl, see how it goes. So while we're waiting for the paint to dry, I think I'm going to take this glass piece off of the base. It's, I'm assuming glued on, so I'm just going to take my hair dryer and run it along this thing and hopefully melt the glue and then be able to twist it off. I will warn you, if you do this, to be careful. I did it once and the whole cloche thing shattered in my hand. Luckily it didn't cut me, but I mean, this is much sturdier glass than that one was, so I'm not too worried about it. But just as a forewarning, in case you also want to try this, to be careful pulling it off. So I'm just going to hit this with the hair dryer and save you from listening to it whine. And then once I get it off, I'm going to clean the stickers and wash all the gunk off of it and then go from there. So here's our cloche. Got it all cleaned out. Unfortunately, it did crack when I pulled it out, but because it sits in this recess, it's not a big deal. Although, still kind of annoying. And I ripped those little owls out and filled in the hole. And then I drilled up through here, which luckily there was already a hole in the middle because I didn't feel like trying to measure out the center. But we got a hole drilled out for the post of the tooth to go in, and a clean thing of glass. So now we're gonna bring in the teeth. Back. Now, unfortunately, I thought I was recording all the spray painting I was doing, the airbrushing I was doing, but I was not. So, it's frustrating, but it is what it is. Here are the teeth. I tried to, like I said, strike a balance between the Lost World teeth and the JP1 T.Rex teeth. I think overall it was a pretty successful attempt. It was hard to decide like how much grime I wanted to put in, but I think this looks a little better. And as I want to make this like kind of a museum display, I didn't really think that if it was too dirty it would look great. So here they are. And I've decided to leave the small one out of this cloche. I'll put, like, I have a bunch of cloches, so I might put that one in a smaller one. So this is the big tooth. And as you can see, I painted the painting stick brass. I had some brass tube on order, and it's not here, but I just want to get this done. So I may replace it later, but for right now, it's fine. Can't really. I also slapped a gloss coat on it. So there we go. So now the only thing left to do is install this in the cloche, which, because I want to replace that with brass, I'm not going to glue it for now, but we'll do the assembly of the tooth in the cloche. Alright, we got our cloche, our T-Rex tooth, and eventually I'm going to obviously glue like a cap in or something to keep this down. But like I said, I want to replace this with an actual brass rod, so we're not going to do that right now, but pop that puppy in. And there's our cloche. It's going to shift a bit. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it looks like a museum display piece, which is what I was going for. So I'm gonna grab some finished shots of this, and this puppy's done.